Welcome to the Lovestead.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Lady Lovestead Reads. My name is Jessica and this is my summer book haul. I have a pretty big stack of books here. I don't know how many it is, but it is a pile of books that I purchased between June 2021 and August 2021. And I think I'm going to just share them in order of shopping trip. I think that's my plan. So first I ordered a couple. First I ordered a couple of books from Barnes & Noble. And you've seen this one already. Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. I read this in August as a buddy read with my friend Francois from Mr. Francie Reads, and I loved it so much that I wanted to get copies of his other major works and get like really nice copies of them because I know I'm going to love them just based on how much I loved this book. So Treasure Island is the classic that is about Jim Hawkins, who works in a tavern, and there's a pirate who ends up staying at the tavern who gets the black spot, and shenanigans kind of ensue from there. They go hunting for treasure. There's battles, there's abandoned islands, like deserted islands is what I want to say. It's just like a quintessential pirate story. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. And I'll definitely be rereading it because it's going to be like a summer favorite, I think. I really like reading pirate stories in the summer. And this copy is just so gorgeous. And it's got the gilded edges. And it also has really gorgeous illustrations that are like oil paintings. So that was the first one that I purchased. Where am I going to stack these? I'll stack them here by Maggie. Okay, and then in that order, I also purchased his Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, also by Robert Louis Stevenson. And this is the Barnes & Noble special edition, like the leather-bound classic. I don't know if this one is illustrated. No, it doesn't appear to be, but like this is gorgeous. So this is about scientists who has split personalities, I believe. That's all I really know about it. So there's that. Hopefully I will read this in the fall at some point. This feels like a very fall-esque book to me. Maybe even gothic, like November. I like to read gothic stuff in November. It's not just spooky season in October, right? Okay, so this will go on my classics shelf that I'm collecting of these beautiful editions of some of my favorite classics. There you go, Maggie. You're a good girl. Okay. Let's just do Book of the Month next because there was only one. That's pretty easy. I joined Book of the Month in June, I think it was, because of this book, The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. This is a dark academic thriller about Mariana, I think her name is. Her niece goes to school, I think it's Cambridge. It might be Oxford, I think it's Cambridge. It's one of the major universities in the UK. And one of her friends is murdered, so Mariana goes back to the campus to try to help her figure out who the murderer is. And I really enjoyed this. I did this one as a buddy read with James from James's Space and Liz from Reading Riley. Had a great time with it. Loved this book. I gave it 4 stars. And you know what? Two out of the 3 books that I bought I've read, and I feel really, really good about that. Now that average is going to go down dramatically as I go through these books, but for now, 2 out of the 3. Next, my friend Tara sent me some books for free that she had on her shelf that she wasn't reading. They are 2 Stephen King books. One is The Tommyknockers. I have no idea what this is about, and it doesn't have the dust jacket for me to read it to you what it's about. But it is a nice hardcover edition of the Tommyknockers. And then she also sent me a hardcover edition of Everything's Eventual. I do enjoy Stephen King. Some of his stuff is hit or miss, but on the whole, I enjoy reading his work. Even the ones that I dislike, I still enjoy a little. You know what I mean? So I'll definitely give these a read at some point. Next, I did a little bit of shopping at local charity shops and little free libraries, and I found 3 books that were interesting from that trip. These 2 are the first in the series of 2 different series that my friend Kit at Kit's World really, really, really loves and speaks highly of. These are both adult high fantasy, Daggerspell by Katherin Kerr and Daughter of the Empire by Raymond Feist and Janny Wurst. He loves these books. He speaks very highly of them. And Kit and I tend to be pretty close to the same page on the kinds of books that we like to read. He really loves classic children's literature. I also really love classic children's literature. He likes a lot of fantasy. I like a lot of fantasy. He reads a little bit more high fantasy than I do. So I'm excited to read these because I'm still pretty new to the genre. I've only really read Lord of the Rings. So I'm excited to give these both a try. Hopefully I'll love them and I'll end up buying the entire series of both. And then in a little free library, I found Once Upon a Time, Red's Untold Tale. This is a book series that spins off from the TV show Once Upon a Time. I love the TV show, and Red is my favorite character in that show. I'm really excited to see how they write about her in this story. It's also a really lovely book. It's got those colored edges. I don't see any illustrations, but it's just, I mean, the matte black. That's, to me, pretty. You all know that I got chickens this summer, and to prepare for chickens, I made sure to do a little bit of research on some of the best chicken keeping books out there, and these 2 were the most highly recommended by all of the chicken people. That doesn't sound right. But all of chicken keepers that I talked to that are really knowledgeable on keeping chickens. They are both by Gail, Damerow, and the first one is Story's Guide to Raising Chickens. So this is just like an overview of how to keep chickens. Look at the little peep peep. Oh, why do I love these birds so much? And then the second one is the Chicken Health Handbook. So this is like my medical guide. Should something go wrong with the chicken, this is what I'll go to first, and then, you know, the veterinarian as well as needed. But this talks about all of the most common things that can happen to them, how to treat the issues. And so this was the one that most people were like, you absolutely have to have this one. So now I have it. The next pile of books are from a trip that my boyfriend and I took to our library's used bookstore. So they have a little used bookstore at my library where people can donate used books, and all the books they withdraw from the library go to the used bookstore, and then all of the funds at the bookstore go back to library programming. So we love to shop there. So first I got a couple of books on Princess Diana. So we got Diana, An Intimate Portrait. This is by Ingrid Seward. I really love learning about royal history. I'm not particularly like a Diana fanatic. You know, there's some people out there who don't know a lot about the royal family, but they absolutely obsess over Princess Diana. That's not really me. Like, my favorite royal is probably Queen Elizabeth, but I do enjoy learning about Princess Diana. I think she's a really dynamic and interesting person, and just a tragic loss. But, the Queen is my point of interest. Anyway, I couldn't pass up these books, right? I'm an armchair royal historian. So I got this one. And then I got Diana, Her True Story by Andrew Morton. I believe Andrew Morton might be the one who recently got in trouble, the journalist who recently got in trouble. Don't quote me on that. I don't know for sure if that's true or not. But there is a journalist who has recently gotten into some trouble for an interview that he did with Diana, where they said that he was asking really leading questions and being manipulative and trying to get her to say certain things, and that it caused a lot of problems within the family. And like Prince William even made a statement about it. This might be the guy, it might not be. The name is ringing a bell here, but it could just be because it's a well-known biographer. I don't know. Either way, I have this book now. Next, on this same shopping trip, I got Kidnapped by Robert Louis Stevenson. And it is this gorgeous, gorgeous leather-bound version with the gilded edges. And I do think this one has illustrations as well. These appear to just be ink, not oil. But so the little book nook bookstore at the library always has a collection of like really nice classics, leather-bound classics, just really nice collectible books basically. And they're very affordable. Like this was $2 for this beautiful book. So now I do have all 3 of Robert Louis Stevenson's major works. He's got other stuff that he's published, but these are the most, I guess, impactful or well-known. Would be Kidnapped. Let me grab them. Yeah, so I've got Kidnapped, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and Treasure Island. I'm getting so happy just like holding them and showing them to you. I also found a couple of books that have been on my radar for a while, and they were cheap enough. Like one of them was 50 cents, the other was $1, so I was like, I'll just go for it. The first one is Away by Amy Bloom. So I'm a big fan of the HBO, or was it Showtime? I don't know, one of them. Television show called The L Word that came out in the early 2000s. And in The L Word, the character Jenny talks about Amy Bloom, the writer. And so I'm like, I kind of want to read something by Amy Bloom and see what she was talking about. And I saw this at the Book Nook, the library's Book Nook, for 50 cents. So I was like, heck yes. It's been on my TBR for a long time now. So I'm excited about that one. And then I love thrillers, and I've heard so many good things about this author. And this one was also just $1. So I picked up The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. So many people love this book. The cover, like the cover gives me all the spooky vibes. So yeah, that is a book I have. And then you won't be surprised that I picked up 2 books by Tess Gerritsen. Y'all know I love Tess Gerritsen. She's one of my favorite writers of all time. So these are a couple of her standalones that I picked up. The first one is The Bone Garden, and I have read this. I read it probably 10 years ago and really, really liked it. And there is a tie-in in this book to the Rizzoli Isles series. It's not part of the series, but one of the characters is related to a character in the Rizzoli Isles series. So I remember really, really enjoying this book. So in this book, this woman buys a house and discovers that there's a body buried in the yard of her house, and does a lot of research on who this is and what she went through. It's like a dual timeline. And so it's kind of a historical thriller because it goes back to the Victorian era and the way that they practiced medicine back then, and it deals with body snatching. So one of the ways that people who studied medicine learned about medicine was by working with cadavers. And so there were these grave robbers who would rob graves of the bodies and bring them to medical students to work on, so that they could learn more about the body and about medicine and whatnot. So it does have some of that in here. It does talk a lot about some of the hardships that women went through with childbirth and you know, death during childbirth and some of that stuff. And I remember really, really enjoying this. I don't remember what I rated it, but I think it's probably due for a reread here at some point. And then the other book I got was Girl Missing, and I've not read this one. So it says, a beautiful young woman's corpse is found dumped in a garbage-strewn alley. Now laid out in the office of medical examiner Kat Novak, the unidentified body betrays no secrets except for a matchbook clutched in one stiff hand, 7 numbers scrawled inside. When a second victim is discovered, Kat begins to fear that a serial killer is stalking the streets, using a deadly drug to do his dirty work. The police are skeptical. The mayor won't listen. One of the town's most prominent citizens, with a missing daughter of his own, is also Kat's chief suspect. As the death toll rises, Kat races to expose a deadly predator who's close enough to touch her. So, sounds pretty good. Alright, and the little stack that I have left here is a haul from Thrift Books, which is an online bookstore that sells used books, and it's just a pretty good place to get books if you're in the US. I don't know if it will ship to like the UK or other places, but if you're in the US, they have really good deals. So the first couple books I got were Death Waits in the Dark and A Dark and Twisting Path, both by Julia Buckley. These are the last 2 books in the Writer's Apprentice Cozy Mystery series. Then I got Hotel Transylvania by Chelsea Quinn Yarbrough. This was published in the 70s, I want to say. Let me look. And this edition is like super... Yeah, 1978. So this was like the original 1978 edition. Like the cover is so old, but I love it at the same time. Like, it's kind of amazing. I wonder, is there anything? No, nothing under there. But I don't know. I love old books. Like, I love the look of an old tattered book. But this is about a woman who, let me see, I'll just read you the thingy in the cover because, you know, when the exquisitely beautiful Madeleine de Montalia falls in love with Le Comte de Saint-Germain, a nobleman of great charm and sophistication, she has no inkling of his terrible, torturous secret. He passionately returns her love and yearns to possess her, but he dares not. Saint-Germain is a vampire. This one was recommended by a friend of mine. Her channel is called The Speculative Magpie. She reads only like really dark, twisty horror books. She also really likes vampires. And she's been reading this series and talking a lot about it. And so I'm really curious to read it, check it out, see what it's like. I haven't heard anybody else ever talk about it. And I'm just really pumped about this cover. And then I also got The Vampire by John William Polidori. This is just a tiny little book. But supposedly this is one of the first vampire stories ever written. And I was in a mood to read vampire books. It says copyright 2009, but I know that it's older than that because this is probably just a reprint. Yeah, I got that. And then I got 2 books that I plan on reading for the Lit with Indian Lit readathon. One was Gachar Gochar. I have read this already. This is like a brief novella. It's a family drama about the inner workings of this family. And I ended up giving this 3 stars out of 5. I'm probably going to unhaul it. I know this is a book haul, but I'm probably going to unhaul it just because it didn't really make me feel anything, and I don't think I will remember it or have any desire to reread it in the future. And then the second one that I got was Cobalt Blue by Sachin Kundalkar. And we'll just read this one. Told with tenderness and unsparing clarity, Cobalt Blue is a tale of rapturous love and fierce heartbreak. Brother and sister Tanay and Anuja are captivated by an artist who has arrived in their family home in Pune, Western India, to be a lodger. At first glance, he seems like the perfect tenant, ready with a writ and happy to listen to their mother's musings on the imminent collapse of Indian culture. But he's also a man of mystery. He has no last name, he has no family, no friends, no history, and no plans for the future. And when he suddenly runs away with Anuja, the family's lives are thrown into turmoil. So that is what that one is about. And I do still plan on reading this at some point this year or next year. I mean, I'm behind on all of my TBRs. So, I mean, we're moving the TBR list into 2022 already with how many books I still need to read for just this year. Okay, that was the last of the books that I hauled over the summer. A lot of them I don't really know what they're about, so I couldn't really tell you what they're about. A lot of them were like, oh, BookTube. I blame BookTube for this summer's book hauls because a lot of these books I don't really know what they're about, or I don't really know the authors. I just know that a lot of my BookTube friends have said things about them, and I'm like, I'm gonna get that because so-and-so has talked about it. So really, BookTube keeps the publishing world in business, I swear. So that'll do it for this video. Tell me down below what books you bought this summer, what books I should buy in the fall. And if you just want to let me know that you're here, leave any kind of flower emoji in the comments. And until next time, make sure that you continue to read good books, drink good coffee, take care of yourselves and each other. Bye!